Hey guys, tonight we're taking it slow. Like, really slow. You're not rushing through some epic battlefield or climbing ancient ziggurats in the desert. Nope. Tonight you're just in a medieval Icelandic fishing village. That's it. That's the vibe. Cold air, itchy wool, fish everywhere, and conversations that take longer than your internet loading on a stormy night. You're standing at the edge of the North Atlantic, breathing in a mist that smells like salt, seaweed, and existential dread. Though that last part might just be your imagination. The black pebble shore crunches under your boots, and everything around you is gray, blue, or some melancholic shade of beige. Even the sky looks like it hasn't had its coffee yet. You're here for the day. You don't really have a job title. You just help. Sometimes you carry things. Sometimes you get yelled at for carrying things wrong. But mostly, you watch. And breathe. And maybe find a rock to sit on and think about lunch even though breakfast hasn't happened yet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Icelandic fishing village time. Emotionally relatable. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're up early, but not because you're productive, just because the wind shook the roof again and someone was yelling at a seagull. The gull, to be fair, started it. You push open your door, which squeaks like it's auditioning for a horror film, and step out into the sharp breath of the Icelandic morning. The shoreline is already half awake. A few boats bob in the water, tethered to anchors made from rock in hopeful knots. Smoke curls from a distant chimney, and a child with a nose like a leaky faucet is chasing a chicken while giggling in Old Norse. You walk past your neighbor's hut, where someone has arranged drying fish in a vaguely artistic spiral. That's Helga. She calls it Sea Spiral number 3, and claims the placement affects the flavor. No one argues with her anymore, because last time someone did, they got slapped with a mackerel, and honestly, fair. You find your favorite rock near the edge of the beach and sit. It's flat, mostly warm, and not claimed by any goat yet. From here, you can see the sun just barely trying to exist on the horizon. It's not so much rising as it is considering its options. But that faint gold glow on the waves, that's your cue. The village is beginning its day. There's no bell or rooster call, just the soft symphony of mundane survival. Wooden buckets clunk. Someone sneezes with authority. A dog barks exactly once. You hear someone mutter about how the sea looks moody again, as if Poseidon personally insulted their herring quota. A few figures gather by the nets. They're inspecting them in silence, occasionally making small noises like or eh. This is serious business. Fish don't catch themselves. Unless you count that one time a confused cod jumped into someone's boots, which was hilarious. And lunch. You stroll down to join them, pretending you understand net talk. You don't. But you nod gravely, point at a knot, and say, "Ah, classic underloop." Someone grunts in agreement. You're officially part of the team now. The nets are stretched along tall driftwood poles, drying gently in the breeze. Bits of seaweed cling to the fibers, like decorative tassels from Poseidon's Etsy shop. You pick one off, sniff it, then immediately regret that choice. Salty, with notes of disappointment. A seagull lands near you, stares directly into your soul, and then poops on a rock with theatrical timing. You consider this a blessing? Probably. You help lay out another net, your fingers raw from the cold and the twine. One of the elders, Kari, who claims he once saw a ghost whale, points at your work and gives a slow nod. High praise. Or maybe just gas. Either way, it's the closest thing to a performance review you'll get today. Nearby, A group of women are arranging fish into neat rows for drying. They hum softly, something between a lullaby and a threat. You catch a lyric about cod eyes watching from below. You decide not to ask questions. At some point, someone hands you a piece of dried haddock. It's chewy, aggressively salty, and somehow tastes like the concept of damp regret. You eat it anyway because that's breakfast now. You spot a man poking the sand with a long stick. You ask why. He says he's looking for the lucky clam. You ask what happens if he finds it. He shrugs. Haven't thought that far. You nod in deep understanding. And just when you think it can't get any more thrilling, you hear a sound behind you. The slow, deliberate crunch of hooves on gravel. You freeze. It's him, the goat. Crowned with seaweed and an old fishbone like some barnyard Poseidon. He gazes at you with eyes full of judgment. He snorts once, steps closer. You hold your ground, offering him your last piece of fish jerky. He takes it. Peace is restored. For now. A light drizzle begins to fall, because of course it does. But no one runs, no one complains. This is Iceland. Rain is basically just air with feelings. You pull your hood up, sit back on your rock, and watch as the mist thickens into a cozy blur. The sea hums. The gulls shriek lullabies. Someone in the distance starts swearing at a bucket. You exhale, slowly. Just another perfectly average morning in your cold, quiet, oddly comforting corner of the medieval world. The drizzle doesn't stop. Not that anyone expected it to. It simply shifts into a more committed version of itself. You squint up at the sky as if to say, "Really?" The sky does not reply. It never does. Just a flat sheet of gray, like someone laid a soggy wool blanket over the heavens. You walk with stiff legs over to the nets again, which are now getting wetter by the minute. There's a brief discussion about whether it's worth hauling them back under shelter. Someone says, "They've been wetter." Someone else adds, "The fish don't mind." That's enough consensus for Iceland. You duck into the boat shed for a bit of reprieve. The smell hits you first. Old salt, whale oil, and the kind of damp that's had generations to mature. It's like stepping into a barrel of pickled wood. You find a stool. It wobbles. Everything here wobbles. Except for Asta, who's standing near the back with arms folded, and that face she does when she's unimpressed by everything, including gravity. She's been in charge of net repairs ever since her husband left to find greener kelp. That was 10 years ago. Rumor is he's still searching, somewhere in Greenland. Or maybe he just couldn't handle her glare. You ask if she needs help. She grunts in a way that might be yes, no, or leave me alone before I use this net needle as a weapon. You take a nearby coil of line and begin organizing it anyway. That's the trick here. Just keep moving your hands. If you look busy enough, people stop assigning you worse tasks, like chasing sheep, or cleaning the outhouse, or, heavens forbid, talking to tourists. Not that they exist yet, but someone's bound to invent them, and when they do, you're not volunteering as guide. A man stumbles into the shed, wet from ankle to eyebrow. His name is Olafur. He smells like regret and low tide. He's yelling something about nets sabotaged by gulls, and a curse from the Puffin Hill. You nod slowly. You've learned it's best to nod slowly with Olafur. Asta tells him he probably just forgot to tie a proper loop again. He protests, citing vibrations in the fjord. She rolls her eyes so hard you hear it. You step outside again, mostly to breathe. The rain's eased into something more romantic, a misty drizzle that settles on your eyelashes like bashful condensation. You notice someone waving at you from the beach. It's Jon, wearing a tunic that was once beige, but now resembles a sponge. He's standing next to something large and fish-shaped, gesturing like it's an emergency. Never is. You trudge over, your boots making that heavy sloshing sound of commitment and poor choices. Yon points at the net, which has been tangled around a boat anchor. He says, "I think it's forming letters." You say, "It's forming a mess." You both agree that it's probably the work of the sea spirits who have a known history of bad penmanship. You untangle the mess, one loop at a time. Yon holds the anchor like it might swim away if he blinks. He tells you about his dream last night. Something involving a fish wearing a crown, offering him tax advice. You suggest less dried herring before bed. He solemnly agrees. As you work, a nearby goat bleats in what feels like critique. You glance back. It's the same goat. Of course it is. He's chewing on a piece of net that wasn't meant for chewing. You let him. You're not brave enough to stop him. Nobody is. With the net finally sorted, you and Yon haul it over to the drying poles again. It's heavier now, soaked and slightly insulted. You spread it out in a haphazard zigzag that someone will surely correct later. That's when you notice it. A gathering near the fish racks. You head over, Yon trailing behind like a loyal dog, who's also mildly confused. A few villagers are clustered around one of the fish drying poles, staring at a seagull perched on top, like it owns the place. But it's not just the bird. Someone has placed a tiny carved fish at the base of the rack. It's made of bone, or driftwood. You can't quite tell. There's a faint red streak painted down its side, and beside it, a pebble with runes etched into the surface. You lean closer. One of the elders mutters, "Offerings again. For the luck." Another grumbles, "Should have used a better fish." Someone else asks, "Do seagulls accept bribes?" You learn that once a month, or whenever the fish yields seem insufficiently blessed, someone places a token offering at the racks. No one admits to being the one who does it, but everyone agrees it's important. Vital, even. You nod sagely, like you've known this for years. As the group disperses, you pocket the pebble. Just for luck. You never know. Mid-morning by now. The drizzle turns to fog. The village begins to smell like smoked fish and damp wool, a perfume you're almost used to. Almost. You walk past the goats again. They're all lying down now, which in Iceland means nothing except that the goats are tired. One of them has a sock stuck on a horn. You don't ask questions. Near the central hut, a few children are drawing on flat stones with burnt wood. They offer you a stone to join. You draw what you believe to be a fish. It looks more like a shoe. They laugh. You say it's a special kind of fish. One that kicks. A woman named Brynja calls everyone to help stretch a new section of net. She hums a tune older than the church stones. You hum along. The rhythm settles you. Left hook, pull. Right loop, tie. Repeat. It's almost meditative. Like yoga, if yoga smelled like old cod. You feel a light tap on your shoulder. It's Kari again, the ghost whale man. He leans in close and whispers, "The goats are planning something." You believe him. Of course you do. You nod at Kari in the only appropriate way one can when told goats are plotting. Slowly, seriously, with just enough eye squint to imply concern. He pats your shoulder like you're now part of the resistance and walks off toward the fjord, humming what might be a lullaby or a secret code. Back at the drying racks, the fish now hang like salty laundry, swinging gently in the fog. You notice a few have been tied with decorative knots. Someone's trying to start a trend again. Last time, it was fish scarves. This time, it's fish macrame. You pretend not to notice, but it's kind of elegant. You wander toward the boats, where a familiar grumble greets you. It's Thorleif, the village's oldest boatman and possibly its grumpiest. He's inspecting a pair of oars with the disdain of a man who's seen better wood in firewood piles. You ask if you can help. He gestures toward a coil of rope and says, "That knot's judging me. Fix it." You approach the rope. It does, in fact, look judgmental. Maybe it's the way it loops. You untangle it carefully, looping it into the correct pattern. Over under. Around the post. Avoid the goat. You're pretty sure that's not the official term, but it's working. Thorleif nods once, high praise. Behind him, a new voice pipes up. A young boy, Schooly, missing one mitten and all his front teeth, asks if you want to see the net with a ghost in it. You say yes, obviously. He leads you to a bundle of netting near the edge of the rocks. It twitches sometimes, he says. You poke it with a stick. Nothing. Then again, still nothing. Then, a slow unfurling, and out rolls a wet, grumpy puffin. You both jump back. The puffin makes a noise like someone trying to play a flute underwater. It waddles toward the sea in silent protest, leaving behind the net and, presumably, its dignity. That was definitely a ghost, says Schooly. You agree. There's no point in arguing with a child whose world still contains dragons and magical mittens. You head toward the central path, where several women are hauling barrels of dried herring. You lend a hand, because that's what you do now. One barrel leaks slightly. You don't mention it. Someone will blame the goats again, and things might escalate. The conversation during barrel hauling is, surprisingly, philosophical. Do you think fish have dreams? One woman asks. Only the smart ones, another replies. The rest just remember being wet. You contribute your theory that fish might dream of flying. This causes a thoughtful silence. Eventually, someone says, that explains why they jump out of buckets. You are now considered a thinker. You pass by the old salt cellar, a large wooden shed that smells like everything that's ever tried too hard. Inside, barrels of salt glisten like treasure in a hoarder's cave. Two men are arguing about whether last year's salt tasted more honest. You decide not to get involved. At the edge of the village, you hear a shout. It's Jon again. He's holding something above his head like a trophy. As you approach, you realize it's a fish. A big one. Possibly confused. Possibly asleep. I caught it, he declares. In the tide pool. You raise an eyebrow. Tide pools are generally for starfish, awkward crabs, and philosophical seaweed, not cod the size of a toddler. Jon beams. It just swam up to me, like it had something to say. You stare at the fish. The fish stares back. I think it's an omen, he says. You nod solemnly. Of what? He pauses. Of soup. That seems right. You help him carry it back to the communal kitchen, where steam curls from stone pots, and a woman with arms like tree trunks is already chopping onions with poetic fury. This one spoke to me, Jon announces. She looks at the fish, then at Jon, then back at the fish. It's not talking now. She takes it and drops it into a pot so gently it feels like a baptism. We'll add dill, for clarity. As the soup simmers, you sit by the fire pit. Your clothes are damp, your hands smell like smoked reality, and your knees remind you that medieval benches were clearly designed as punishment for hubris. Someone offers you a cup of skyr, thick, sour, oddly comforting. It tastes like yogurt that's been through something. Across the room, an elder is telling a story. Something about a whale that swallowed a boat by accident and apologized afterward. You miss half of it because your eyes close for just a moment. When you open them again, it's to the sound of a fishmonger arguing with a shepherd about trade values. 3 herring for 1 boot. It's a very warm boot. It smells like betrayal. You step outside again. The rain has returned, but now it's celebratory. Big, splashy droplets that hit your forehead with the enthusiasm of a toddler drummer. You smile and accept it. A puffin waddles past, carrying a stick. You salute it. It does not salute back. You sit beneath the eaves of the boat shed and watch the clouds roll in like ancient, tired thoughts. Your breath fogs the air. Your fingertips twitch with cold. It's a slow day, a gentle day, the kind that leaves no legend behind, but quietly becomes your favorite memory. And somewhere behind you, a goat bleats in what might be approval. You wake from your brief, unplanned puffin nap to the soft sound of someone humming off-key. The clouds haven't moved much, just reshuffled themselves like bored theater curtains. You stretch your arms, immediately regretting the movement, as your joints remind you that Icelandic benches were not designed for ergonomics, nor forgiveness. A small crowd is forming near the edge of the docks. You shuffle over, boots squelching in the damp earth, like you're stepping on wet sponges that once had dreams. Turns out, it's net stretching time again, a sacred ritual in this village, not because it's religious, but because it always ends in an argument worth watching. Jon is there, of course, holding one end of a dripping net like he's about to perform a magic trick. Opposite him is Ragna, a no-nonsense woman who once caught a shark using only a glare. She's not buying what Jon is selling. "You tied it backwards again," she says. Jon insists. It's the avant-garde method. You offer to help. No one listens, which is probably for the best. You stand back and observe the passive-aggressive knot tying that follows. It's like watching interpretive dance, but with more muttering and occasional splashes. Behind you, someone is telling a story about the time a net caught not fish, but a full basket of apples. No one knows where the apples came from. The sea never explained. Some say it was a shipwreck. Others say it was Poseidon's lunchbox. The villagers just made pie. You wander away toward the edge of the boat slip, where the tide is creeping in like a cat that wants something. A boy is standing ankle-deep, tossing stones and talking to them like they're co-workers. You try not to interrupt whatever important meeting is happening. Further down the path, you spot two women mending sails. The fabric is thick, patched, and smells like seawater and frustration. One woman is sewing with what appears to be a bone needle, carved with runes. You ask her about it. She tells you it's good luck against tearing storms and unsolicited opinions. You make a note to get one. She offers you a spare needle, though this one is shaped more like a carrot than a needle, and tells you to practice on a piece of burlap. You do. You create what can only be described as textile case. She nods and says, "You'll terrify the wind itself." Somewhere nearby, a goat sneezes with intent. You decide to take a walk up the shallow slope behind the village, where the wind gathers its thoughts before coming down to harass everyone. There's a row of cairns, stone markers left by ancestors or bored children, depending on who you ask. You add a pebble to one. No reason. It just feels right. As you descend again, you spot Kari standing in front of a long wooden pole stuck upright in the earth. It has small notches running down one side. "The weather stick," he explains. "What does it say?" you ask. He leans close. "It says we're in it." You nod as if that answers everything. Lunch arrives without fanfare. A pot of fish stew is passed around in wooden bowls. It's hot, thick, and full of textures that defy explanation. You choose something that might be potato or might be fish elbow. Does fish have elbows? The stew is not forthcoming with answers. You sit near the hearth with your bowl. The heat feels like an old friend who knows your secrets, but still gives you soup. Across from you, two elders are debating whether the wind this season feels more disappointed or sarcastic. You offer passive-aggressive as an option. They nod approvingly. At some point, someone starts playing a bone flute. The tune is slow, wandering, like a lazy river thinking about fish. A dog joins in with a low howl. The room, remarkably, doesn't object. In fact, someone harmonizes with the dog. This is now a concert. Jon enters holding a bundle of kelp. "It's decorative," he insists. You watch as he wraps it around a chair. The chair leans forward slightly, either in approval or because it's broken. The kelp stays. You finish your stew and help wash out the bowl with seawater and sand, two ingredients that apparently clean everything here, including possibly your soul. Outside, the clouds begin to separate like two people in a polite argument. A sliver of sunlight appears and hits the fish racks, making them gleam like slightly damp treasure. Someone cheers, probably ironically. You sit by the edge of the path, the scent of soup still clinging to your sleeves. A child runs past, chasing a chicken that seems deeply over this nonsense. The chicken disappears behind a shed. The child follows. Neither are seen again for a full hour. A soft bell sounds, not for timekeeping, but because someone likes bells. It's Asta, the net queen. She rings it when it's time for the afternoon lull, a tradition that's part nap, part quiet time, part socially accepted existential pause. You take your spot near a mossy log, lay back, and stare at the sky that's now doing its best impression of being pleasant. You pull your hood over your eyes. The wind strokes your face like it's apologizing for earlier. You forgive it. Somewhere in the distance, the puffin makes its strange honk again. Someone hums a song with no words, and for a while, nothing happens. And it's perfect. You wake to the gentle sound of something flapping. Not wings, but linen. You lift your hood just enough to see a row of laundry lines stretching between two huts, filled with shirts, trousers, and underthings billowing like very tired ghosts. It's late afternoon now, and the sun is doing its best impersonation of being visible. There's actual light on your hands. You check to make sure they're still yours. They are, though slightly more weathered and mildly fish-scented than you remember. Occupational hazard. Across the path, two villagers are arguing over the proper technique for drying socks. One insists they must hang toe up to confuse evil spirits. The other says that's nonsense. The spirits live in boots, not socks. You quietly decide never to look into your boots again. You make your way toward the west end of the village, where the goat, yes, that goat, is currently standing on top of a storage crate, like he's declaring himself temporary chieftain. A small group has gathered, not to challenge him, but to quietly accept this. You avoid eye contact and continue past, arriving at the fish drying area once more. A few slabs of cod have fallen down, and someone's attempting to rehang them with one hand, while fending off a very determined dog with the other. "Mine," says the dog. Not verbally, but spiritually. You help rehang the cod, using knots that would horrify a sailor, but earn polite nods from the dog, who seems to admire your audacity. The fish are hung again, the dog receives a single dried scrap in tribute, and peace is restored. Back by the hearth, the elders are preparing for what they call calendar review, a process that involves a carved wooden stick, a goat tooth, and several pebbles arranged in a pattern that no one can really explain, but everyone respects. According to this system, today is second fish of mid-fog, a date that apparently demands minimal labor and maximum tea. You nod. This suits you just fine. You're handed a warm mug of something brown and fragrant. It's tea made from moss, mint, and a plant referred to only as the one that doesn't bite. It's not bad. A bit earthy, a bit mysterious, a bit like drinking the memory of a damp forest. You sip slowly while sitting on a flat rock that's been dubbed the Council Stone, mostly because 3 people once sat on it at the same time and didn't argue. It's revered now. Beside you, Ragna is whittling a piece of driftwood into the shape of, well, you think it's a whale, but it could also be an angry loaf of bread. You ask her what it is. She replies, "Yes." You nod as if that explains everything. Across the path, Schoolie is attempting to teach a chicken how to dance. His success rate is unclear, but his confidence is unmatched. He's clapping in rhythm, the chicken is flapping in protest, and the goat is watching like a disappointed theater critic. You lean back, watching the sky shift from reluctant blue to lavender gray. A thin breeze carries the scent of salted meat, old wood, and something sweet. Honey, maybe? Someone's baking, possibly just boiling old desserts, until they behave. Jon walks by with a basket of something unidentifiable. You ask. "Turnip surprise," he says. "What's the surprise?" He thinks. "That it's mostly carrots." He offers you one. You accept. It's crunchy, slightly sour, and tastes like it once had dreams of being soup. Not bad. Behind the longhouse, you spot a small gathering of villagers with spoons and bowls. You investigate. It's the tasting committee. They're preparing for next week's community feast and currently debating whether dried puffin pairs better with cranberry jam or mustard. You offer the wild idea, both. A scandalous suggestion, but they try it. After a long moment of silence and chewing, someone says, "Acceptable." You are now on the committee. This is how power works here. Nearby, a girl is carving tiny fish shapes into the side of the sauna hut. "For good steam," she says. You ask how many it takes for excellent steam. She shrugs. "I'll keep going until something happens." Evening creeps in gently, like a cat looking for a lap. The villagers begin to slow down, not that they were ever moving particularly fast. Conversations soften, tools are stacked, fire pits are fed. Someone starts singing a lullaby. It's not in any language you recognize. It might just be humming with ambition. Still, it's lovely. You help carry in a basket of kindling and accidentally step on a moss biscuit, a small handmade cushion left out to dry. It squelches, but no one minds. It happens. You sit again by the hearth, now filled with gentle flames and slow roasting root vegetables. You're handed another cup of moss tea, this one with a little bark chip floating in it, for wisdom. You sip cautiously. It tastes like advice from someone who's always barefoot. You watch the fire flicker in slow motion. Sparks drift upward like lazy fireflies. The goat walks past with something in its mouth, possibly someone's mittens, possibly your destiny. You don't follow. Instead, you lean back, exhale deeply, and let your shoulders melt into the smoke-scented air. The spoon taps gently against a clay bowl. Somewhere, someone laughs softly. Someone else sighs like they've been holding it in since last winter. This village moves at the speed of soup, and right now, you're exactly where you need to be. You're back outside again, drawn by the shifting color of the sky. It's now that odd, in-between shade where the clouds turn purple, like bruised cotton, and everything feels like it's preparing for a bedtime story. Even the goats are quieter. Suspiciously so. You wander down to the rocky path that hugs the shoreline. It's slick from the earlier drizzle, and each step feels like a negotiation between gravity and your boots. You pass a group of children playing a game that involves seaweed, small stones, and yelling. The rules are unclear. The passion is not. You ask what they were playing. "Rockfish," one girl says. "Who's winning?" She shrugs. "We are." You nod, wisely stepping away before the goat joins in and escalates things. Farther along, you come to the fish drying poles again. A familiar tilt has returned. One of the main support beams leans a little more than yesterday. You and Jon tried to fix it last week using driftwood and optimism. Apparently, optimism is not load-bearing. You call for help, and within minutes, a small team assembles with the speed and enthusiasm of people who know this dance all too well. There's Ragna, with her ever-present scowl of competence. there's Olafur, holding 3 different tools, none of which are remotely helpful. And of course, Kari arrives with a hammer and a half-eaten turnip. The repair process begins. Someone mutters that the pole was cursed from the beginning. Someone else suggests it's the wind, drunk again. You all agree not to tell Asta about this until it's upright, or until it's her turn to blame someone. You brace the post, shove a rock under one side, then tie it down using rope that smells like every storm this village has ever endured. It holds. For now. You step back, satisfied, and nearly fall into a puddle that wasn't there 5 minutes ago. The puddle makes a sound. You jump. Turns out it's not a puddle. It's the lazy seal. Yes, the seal again. He's back, just lying there, like a glistening lump of ocean sausage, blinking up at you with complete indifference. A few villagers gather around, debating whether this is a good omen, or just an aquatic squatter with no sense of boundaries. Jon appears beside you, nodding solemnly. He only shows up when the moon is confused, he says. You glance at the sky. The moon is indeed trying to poke through the clouds like a shy lantern. Perhaps confused, perhaps just fashionable. The seal sneezes. Everyone claps. You carry on, because that's the only sensible option. You help move a few crates of dried cod into the storage hut. A dim, earthy building that smells like it hasn't aired out since before the invention of joy. Inside, shelves groan under the weight of fish wrapped in cloth, straw, and vague hope. Someone hands you a ledger. It contains only 2 columns. Fish, and definitely fish. You check the latest entry. It reads, you write, maybe fish, and move on. Outside again, the wind has returned, but this time it's softer. Kind. The kind of breeze that tugs at your sleeves like a child wanting a story. You take a walk up the path that leads toward the lookout hill, a bumpy rise topped with stones and goat footprints. From up here, the whole village stretches below like a lazy patchwork quilt, stitched together with rope, smoke, and salt. The rooftops glisten from earlier rain. Chimneys puff rhythmically. Somewhere, a dog howls. Somewhere else, a sheep answers. You pretend not to notice. You sit on the edge of a flat boulder, legs dangling like laundry. The view is simple. Ocean, cloud, village, goat. Repeat, and somehow, that's enough. A small notebook lies beside you, left by someone or forgotten by a breeze. You flip it open. Inside, sketches. Rough ones. Of people, animals, boats. There's a cartoonish drawing of the lazy seal wearing a crown. Beneath it, someone's written, King of Tides. You close the notebook and smile. As the wind rustles the grass around you, your mind begins to wander. You think about how every part of this day has been slow, quiet, small. Yet here you are, more relaxed than you felt in ages. No battles, no mysteries to solve. No emperors, just rope, wind, soup, and goats with delusions of grandeur. And still, somehow, you're completely invested. You head back down the hill as dusk settles fully, the sky now leaning toward navy blue, the kind of shade that makes you whisper without knowing why. The village is glowing from within. Firelight spills through open doorways. Shadows flicker like friendly ghosts. Laughter echoes between buildings, low and warm, and full of stories that don't need punchlines. You pass by a group preparing lanterns, made from dried fish bladders and ingenuity. You don't ask how they work. They just do. One of the lanterns winks out. A child gasps. An adult calmly relights it with a coal. The child nods, satisfied. You find your way back to the central hearth. A new pot is bubbling, something thick and sweet-smelling. A kind of dessert porridge, you're told. Ingredients: barley, milk, dried berries, and a pinch of whatever survived the winter. You take a bowl and find a spot near the edge, where the light gives way to night. Your spoon stirs slowly. The porridge is warm, creamy, and tastes like comfort dipped in nostalgia. Jon sits beside you, nodding at the horizon. "Good fish day," he says. You nod back. "Good seal day, too," he grins. They rarely line up. And with that, the night deepens, like ink slowly poured into water. No rush, no sharp lines, just gentle change. You sip the last of your porridge and listen as the flames crackle. The wind whispers, and the goats for once seem to sleep. You're not sure how long you sat there, watching the firelight flicker like a sleepy heartbeat. Maybe minutes. Maybe enough time for a second helping of barleyberry mush to appear in your bowl without explanation. You eat it anyway. It tastes like someone tried their best, and sometimes that's perfect. Someone suggests a story. Not the dramatic kind. No dragons or epic betrayals. Just one of the quiet ones. The kind you tell while scratching your ankle through wool socks and pretending not to nod off mid-sentence. An elder named Bjorg volunteers. She settles in beside the hearth, wraps herself in a faded seal-hide shawl, and clears her throat with the authority of someone who's forgotten more than most people will ever learn. Her story? The day the goat chose a wife. You perk up. Apparently, some decades ago, one of the village goats, an unusually clever one, even by Icelandic goat standards, took a particular liking to a woman named Ile. Every morning, it would follow her to the fish racks, wait patiently, then escort her back to her hut. When another goat dared to nuzzle her hand, it was promptly butted into the fjord. A statement had been made. Eventually, Eileen began tying little ribbons around the goat's horns. The two were inseparable. One day, the goat arrived wearing a wreath of seaweed and what might have been a fishbone necklace. At first, the village laughed. Then they saw Eileen had braided her hair the same way. Did they marry? Someone whispers. Bjorg shrugs. They never said no. You think about that for a while. There's a certain charm to it. An unspoken agreement between two souls who simply chose each other, regardless of biology, judgment, or the logistics of shared housing. As Bjorg finishes, the fire pops like it's applauding politely. You step outside for a breather and find yourself standing beneath a sky so clear it feels borrowed from another country. The stars are out in full, sharp and bold, like someone spilled salt across a dark tablecloth. You can actually see the Milky Way tonight. It hums above you in silence, a long, slow ripple of light, older than anything in the village, and probably smarter than all of you combined. A younger boy walks up beside you and points at the sky. "That one's the fish star," he says. "Which one?" you ask. He gestures broadly. "Yes." You nod. That tracks. Back inside, someone has brought out the cold box, a wooden chest filled with oddities preserved in salt, ice, or rumor. There's a dried eel skin tied like a ribbon, a stone that looks exactly like a loaf of bread, a small jar containing what may or may not be the soul of a disappointed puffin. You're asked to choose one for luck. You pick the bread-shaped stone. The room hums with approval. It's nearly full night now. The lull in activity is so complete, you feel like whispering to the walls. People are drifting toward sleep, some still in their boots, some curled up with their backs against the clay oven, some in clusters on old wool blankets, forming tangled mountains of elbows and quiet snoring. You find your own corner, between a barrel of dried fish and a goat who may or may not be dreaming of taxes. You roll up your spare tunic as a pillow and settle in. The earth below you is cold, but honest. From somewhere nearby, a lullaby floats through the room. It's the same wordless tune from earlier, now slower, almost sighing. A spoon gently taps against a wooden bowl in rhythm. The effect is hypnotic, ancient, safe. You close your eyes. The scent of smoke lingers in your nostrils. Not harsh, just the kind that clings to stories. You can still taste the berries from the porridge, like sweet punctuation marks to a sentence that's not quite finished. Someone mumbles in their sleep, "Don't trust the puffins." A baby lets out a half sneeze, half yawn. A goat farts softly, with dignity. And you? You exhale. Not a sigh, not quite a breath. Just a soft reminder to the world that you're still here. Wrapped in wool and salt air, with stars overhead and absolutely nothing urgent to do. Just listen. Just be. Because in this village, the night doesn't fall. It leans in gently. You wake up not to an alarm, but to the sound of someone rhythmically sweeping outside with a broom made entirely of fish bones and seaweed stems. It's the gentlest form of passive aggression you've ever encountered, each sweep whispering, "You've had enough sleep, haven't you?" You open one eye. The goat is still beside you, looking entirely unbothered. In fact, it appears to have stolen part of your blanket. You decide not to challenge it. He's earned it somehow. The village is stirring again. Not fast. Nothing here is fast. It's more like a communal stretching. The sound of boots being thudded onto the floor. The murmur of voices discussing the same thing they discuss every morning. Weather, fish, and the increasingly suspicious silence of the sheep. You pull on your cloak, still slightly damp from the night before. Everything here is slightly damp, including the air, your boots, and at this point probably your memories. Outside, the mist has returned. Just a low, clinging fog that blurs the edges of the world, like the village is being gently erased from the margins in slow motion. You make your way toward the center square, where the day's first event is already underway. The unveiling of the day's fishing predictions. Yes, the Fisherman's Almanac. It's not written. It's carved on the side of a sheep's skull. You approach respectfully. Asta stands in front of it, holding a stick she calls the pointer, though it looks suspiciously like a goat femur. With great ceremony, she taps the appropriate weather rune. 2 squiggles, a dot, and what may be a fish with legs. Today's reading, she announces, is moderate chop, strange clouds, and possible miracles after tea. Everyone nods. Someone mutters, "Better than last week." You spend the next hour sorting through bundles of netting left in a heap beside the sauna, still slightly warm and inexplicably containing 2 socks and half a spoon. You hand them to a child, who takes them solemnly like they're relics. Next up, the barrel rotation. The fish storage barrels, having stood in place for too long, need to be turned slightly to avoid settling resentment. You're not entirely sure if this is a superstition or a metaphor, possibly both. You join a group of villagers in slowly rolling barrels a few inches left, then right, then tapping them twice like you're tucking them into bed. Someone whistles. Someone else corrects their whistle. A third person suggests they both stop. By mid-morning, someone has declared it wool sorting hour. A long table is pulled outside, and baskets appear, overflowing with wool clumps of various textures, colors, and questionable cleanliness. You're assigned a spot between Jon and Ragna. Jon tries to braid his wool. Ragna threatens to braid Jon. The sorting system is simple, soft, scratchy, mysterious. You contribute significantly to the mysterious pile. As you work, stories are exchanged. Someone mentions the time a visiting trader tried to convince the village that seagull eggs were a delicacy. He only had 1 tooth left when he left, they add with a smirk. Another tells of a woman who once claimed to have knit an entire tunic from goat hair in spite. It's still displayed in the longhouse. Itchy, glorious, and vaguely humming with judgment. A man walks by offering tea, and something he describes as crisp bread but happier. It crunches like it contains secrets. You eat too. You take a moment to stretch your legs, wandering toward the edge of the rocky cliffs where the sea yawns open into forever. The waves crash lazily today, like they're doing it out of obligation, not conviction. Perched on the ledge is Schoolie again, the mittenless philosopher. He's tossing pebbles into the sea and making grand proclamations like, "That one's for ambition," and "That one's for when I ate the candle wax." You sit beside him. No words needed, just the soft rush of wind and the occasional grumble from the sea below. Eventually, Schoolie says, "Do you think the sea remembers us?" You shrug. "Maybe it just dreams us." He nods solemnly and throws one more pebble. "That one's for maybe." Back in the village, preparations are beginning for what they call the Quiet Festival. You're not told what it celebrates, or when it officially begins, or if it has any point at all. But everyone's very excited. Lanterns are being hung. Not fancy ones, just simple shapes made of oiled parchment, bones, and the occasional dried bladder. Children are told to behave. Goats are politely asked to leave. They do not comply. You're handed a long stick with a bell on one end and instructed to walk the perimeter and jingle when appropriate. You ask when that is. The reply is simply, "You'll know." You don't. But you jingle anyway, and somehow it feels right. By the time the fog lifts slightly, the village is bathed in soft afternoon light, the kind that makes you nostalgic for things you haven't experienced yet. People are gathering in loose circles, sharing flatbread, fermented berries, and tea strong enough to qualify as folklore. Someone begins telling a story about the time the sea froze solid and the villagers ice-skated to Greenland. On purpose? Someone asks. "No," comes the reply, as the sun begins its slow descent. Barely a dip here, just a shuffle toward the horizon. You sit with a bowl of soup, a warm stone under your feet, and a goat eyeing your spoon with ill intent. And you think, there are cities with towers and clocks and horns and speed, and then there's this place, where time is a puddle, and your only responsibility is to jingle when appropriate. You wake from a soup-induced daydream to the clink of a bowl being stacked too enthusiastically on a pile of other bowls. Someone whispers, "Sorry," as if they've disturbed a sacred rite. In this village, they have. Stacking bowls loudly after soup hour is a mild offense. One tier above forgetting your mittens, one tier below stealing another person's goat. You rise, stretch, and immediately regret it. Your spine sounds like an old ship trying to dock. Still, the fire is low, and the air carries that certain evening chill that sneaks in through every seam in your clothing. It's time to move or be claimed by the bench forever. Outside, the Quiet Festival has begun in earnest, or rather, in whispers. This isn't the kind of festival where people dance in circles and throw flower petals. It's the kind where someone rings a very small bell, and everyone just nods. You find a group gathered near the stone circle at the village center. It's not a formal meeting, just one of those slow convergences where villagers lean into their own silences, eyes half closed, cups of moss tea steaming in their hands. A man plays a two-stringed instrument made of driftwood and dried sinew. It makes the sort of music that could lull a rock to sleep. You stand nearby, letting the notes burrow into your ears like sleepy insects. Someone hands you a small woven token, a charm shaped like a cod, tied with dyed wool. "For luck," they whisper. You're not sure what kind of luck, but you accept it with reverence. It smells faintly of smoke and optimism. The fog has pulled back even more now, revealing the outlines of hills beyond the fjord. You can see the grazing sheep in the distance, forming geometric blobs on the slopes. They look entirely too content, which is unnerving. You suspect a plot. Ragna appears beside you with 2 steaming mugs. She hands you one without a word. It tastes like something made from pine needles, stale bread, and possibly guilt. You pretend to enjoy it. She raises an eyebrow and nods in approval. You've passed the test. Behind you, someone lights a lantern with a glowing coal taken from the hearth. The lantern hums softly, not from magic, just from the heat shifting the dried bladder skin in the breeze. It glows like a quiet thought. You're beckoned to join a group heading down to the water for the tide toss, an annual event where people throw things into the sea and hope it either takes them or brings them back improved. It's less ritual and more therapeutic littering. You walk beside Kari, who's brought an old boot. It's time, he says solemnly. For what? He shrugs. To stop pretending this boot is lucky. You nod, as one does when someone confesses boot-related epiphanies. At the shoreline, everyone lines up along the rocks. One by one, villagers step forward and toss their items into the sea. A chipped bowl, a piece of driftwood shaped like a nose, a letter never sent, a spoon that only brings bad weather. You toss your fish-shaped charm, not because you don't want luck, but because the sea seems like it could use a good cod-shaped pick-me-up. As it splashes in, someone claps once. It's unclear if that was for you or just for the splash. Either way, it feels complete. Back up the slope, lanterns have been strung between the huts. They sway gently in the breeze, casting shadows that move like friendly ghosts. Children chase each other with sticks that light up faintly from phosphorescent moss. You're not sure if it's scientific or witchcraft. No one explains. No one needs to. A slow drumbeat begins. Not a drum exactly, just a wide wooden bowl tapped rhythmically with 2 carved spoons. It echoes like distant footsteps or the heartbeat of the fjord. You sit once more, this time against the wall of a hut warmed by a fire inside. The goat is there, of course. He settles beside you, regal, blank-eyed, possibly dreaming of empire. You offer him part of a dried turnip. He refuses, insulted. The stars return, brighter than before, pinpricks against the blue-black velvet of the sky. The Milky Way spills across it in a lazy arc, like someone leaned too far and knocked over the universe. A girl sits nearby, braiding her hair with strands of colored yarn. She sings softly. No words, just notes, shaped like spirals and sighs. It's the kind of song that tells no story, and yet you somehow understand every emotion behind it. Time is loose now. Your thoughts drift. You wonder what the sea is doing with all those tossed items. Building a shrine, starting a store. Jan claims he once saw a fish swimming with someone's bracelet around its fin. He says it looks smug. You believe him. Someone passes around a wooden tray of small cakes made with barley and what's only described as frostflower honey. They're dense, chewy, and taste like memory. You eat 2, maybe 3. The goat judges you. You do not care. Eventually, the drumbeat slows. The spoon tapping becomes more irregular. People begin peeling away toward their huts, toward fires, toward bundled sleep. You linger. One last look at the stars. One last breath of salt and wood smoke. One last moment of not needing to be anywhere, but exactly here. You make your way back inside. The embers in the hearth pulse gently, like they're breathing. A few villagers lie curled around them, asleep already. Someone's muttering about the sheep with the monocle again. A comforting regularity. You find your blanket, retrieved from the goat with minimal negotiation, and curl beneath it. Your boots lie beside you, still damp, still loyal. Your hands smell like fish and pine. Your heart hums like that lantern. No music plays. No great revelations arrive. Just sleep. Slow, deep, deserved. You don't wake so much as rise. Slowly, like bread dough realizing it's been left near the fire too long. The air is cool again. Not biting, just firm. A gentle reminder that you still exist in a place where the wind writes the rules and the goats enforce them. Someone is snoring softly. You're pretty sure it's not you. Though you also wouldn't be surprised if you'd briefly harmonized with the fire crackle in your sleep. A bowl is placed near your feet. Steam curls from it like a welcoming hand. Inside is warm porridge, speckled with dark berries, and a generous dollop of what you hope is butter, but wouldn't mind if it were candle wax, frankly. You've reached that level of hunger. You eat slowly. The berries burst on your tongue, tart and earthy, the kind of flavor that reminds you Aoud didn't always come in plastic or with loyalty points, just a spoon and trust. Across the room, the old woman who braided the goat's tail yesterday is rebraiding it. The goat looks resigned. You lock eyes briefly. There's an understanding. Neither of you are truly in charge of your day. You step outside and blink against the morning haze. The sky is trying something new, a dull golden wash, thin like watercolor and about as committed. The wind is absent for now, off bothering someone else's village. The air smells like wood smoke, herring, and ambition. Someone is already hauling a net toward the beach, muttering about the good tide window. You offer to help. They wave you off. You helped yesterday. Let someone else be heroic. You decide not to argue. Instead, you head toward the stone pool, a naturally carved basin that fills with tide water, and, inexplicably, the occasional boot. It's said the pool was formed by a troll's elbow, though the geology suggests erosion and time. The village sides with the troll theory. You sit beside the pool, dip your fingers in. The water's cold but clear, smooth as glass over the sand. Tiny shrimp dart beneath the surface like they're late for something. You hear footsteps behind you. It's Bjorg again, holding a wooden spoon and wearing a serious face. "It's sheep day," she says. "Ah," you reply, expertly hiding the fact you have no idea what that means. Turns out, once a month, the sheep are gathered, inspected, and spoken to sternly. Not scolded, just reasoned with. You join the others by the pasture fence, where the animals have gathered as if they know their moment has arrived. Kari attempts diplomacy. He steps forward, claps twice, and declares, "Listen well, you woolen mysteries." The sheep stare. One sneezes. Negotiations begin. It's not clear what the goal is. Someone's muttering about checking hooves, someone else is trimming matted wool, and a third person appears to be reading poetry to a particularly moody you. You help herd a few to the pen, using a stick and your most non-threatening posture. The sheep respond by ignoring you entirely. Eventually, you try humming. That works. Schoolie is nearby again, this time balancing on one leg atop a flat rock. "It helps the sheep respect you," he claims. One sheep walks up and headbutts him gently off the rock. Respect achieved. By midday, the sun has almost decided to shine. The village looks proud, like it's just cleaned its face and remembered it owns nice socks. Even the gulls seem more graceful today, though one still tries to fly off with someone's glove. Lunch is simple: flatbread, soup, and a dried apple slice that tastes like old sunlight. You chew slowly, watching the steam rise from your bowl in curly loops. Across the table, Hyon is carving something into the edge of the bench. You peek over. It's a cod, wearing sunglasses. You say nothing. After the meal, you help tidy the tools, bundling ropes, stacking baskets, brushing moss from the work table. Someone plays a quiet tune on the driftwood lute again. You find yourself humming along, the melody now familiar. In the square, a group is practicing for the upcoming seasonal song, an event where the villagers sing about the weather, the goats, and one suspiciously flattering verse about a man named Bjarni, who definitely wrote it himself. You join in. Off-key. No one minds. The goat bleats in rhythm. It may be the only one truly on beat. Evening returns before you realize the afternoon has left. The sky fades from hopeful gold to lavender and gray, soft and vast. The sea breathes below, calm as a sleeping cat. The villagers begin to settle. Fires are lit again, not out of necessity, but out of ritual. Light, warmth, flicker. You sit by the outer wall of the longhouse, your blanket around your shoulders, the scent of roasted roots drifting through the air. Someone hands you a piece of honeycomb wrapped in wax paper. You chew it slowly. It sticks to your teeth. It also sticks to your memory. A detail you'll recall someday when you're somewhere else, far away, needing a reason to smile. Kari sits beside you. He doesn't speak, just points upward. You look. One star, then two, then the whole sky, returning in full chorus. And you feel it again, that quiet, grounded hum of belonging to something ancient and simple, and deeply alive. A fishing village, a slow day, a goat with unresolved ambitions, and you, exactly where you need to be. The stars are out in full now, twinkling like gossip between old friends. The kind of night sky that makes you believe in every tale you've heard about skyfish, celestial sheep, and the northern lights being the ghosts of dancers who refuse to rest. You and the rest of the village slowly migrate indoors, lured by the promise of warmth, flickering firelight, and a few final spoonfuls of whatever root stew didn't get devoured earlier. The goat follows, naturally. He enters the longhouse like a regular, nods once, then settles beside the hearth like a philosopher who's decided not to write any books, after all. The room hums low with after-dinner energy. People talk in soft tones, heads resting against the walls, hands wrapped around warm mugs. Someone's carving a new ladle. Someone else is brushing crumbs out of their beard with the care of a museum conservator. You settle on a low bench next to the wall where a crude mural is painted. Various scenes from village life, rendered in thick lines and questionable proportions. One figure has 6 fingers. Another appears to be winning an arm wrestling match against a puffin. You choose not to question it. Ragna is preparing for inventory hour. It's not as dramatic as it sounds. No one has a ledger. It's just her, walking around the room, holding things up, and saying, "Still here," then nodding. You offer to help. She hands you a cracked clay bowl and asks, "Is this bowl emotionally stable?" You answer, "It tries." She nods. "It stays." A child nearby is trying to balance a spoon on their nose. It keeps sliding off. A nearby elder offers this advice: less nose sweat, more focus. Everyone agrees this is wise. Bjorg stands to stretch and declares she's about to read aloud from the very important book. This is a battered old tome full of stories, family recipes, half-finished poems, and a map that clearly leads nowhere, but looks impressive doing it. She opens to a random page and begins to read. Once there was a woman who swore she could speak to fish. Not all fish, just the polite ones. She claimed the herring were the most gossipy, and the cod the most philosophical. One day, she vanished into the tide, leaving behind only her boots and a note that said, "Back soon. Tell the flounder I said hello." Everyone nods thoughtfully, as though they've known her. Jon mumbles, "Probably founded a new village underwater." Kari replies, "Probably better weather there." You laugh, not loudly, just enough to make the goat look up, mildly offended. Outside, the fog rolls back in, creeping between the huts, around the fences, up the hill where the sheep sleep like lumpy clouds in wool pajamas. The wind plays gently at the shutters, tapping now and then like it's asking if it can come in for tea. You stoke the fire absently, watching the embers swirl like red snowflakes. You're not cold, exactly, just aware of how lovely warmth is. Asta begins preparing tomorrow's tea ingredients. She moves from jar to jar, muttering, sniffing, pinching, and occasionally discarding a leaf with a look that says, "Absolutely not." Someone asks what kind of tea she's making. She replies, "The kind that tells the truth." No one asks for more detail. Around the hearth, the conversation shifts to great moments in average fishing. Ragna recalls the time she caught 2 fish with 1 net toss, then lost both when a gull declared it tax season. Jon swears he once caught a fish that spat out a pebble shaped like a heart. He keeps it in a pouch. He shows it. It mostly looks like a kidney. Another story emerges. The tale of the boat that came back empty, except for a single, perfectly folded piece of parchment. No one could read the writing. One elder says it was Elvish. Another says it was an overdue tax notice. The mystery remains. Outside, a soft bell rings. Someone remembers the tide is at its highest tonight. They say it brings good dreams, or fish dreams, depending on your sleep schedule. One by one, villagers begin finding spots to curl into, under benches, beside walls, near the hearth, beside the goat, who is now radiating more warmth than should be possible for something with hooves. You spread out your blanket again. This time it's drier, or at least confidently damp. You lie back and watch the shadows from the fire dance on the ceiling beams. A pair of slippers has been hung to dry overhead. They swing gently in the breeze, sneaking through the cracks. It feels like home, not your original home, but the kind of home your dreams would build if given lumber, smoke, and patience. Someone starts snoring. Someone else throws a small cloth over their head. Another hushes them, not because of the sound, just because it's tradition. As your eyes close, you hear a spoon drop into an empty bowl. The goat sighs. The wind whistles low, like a bedtime tune played just for you. And you sleep again. Deep, without question. Wrapped in wool and wonder. Morning arrives like a suggestion rather than a command. Light filters in slowly, golden and sleepy, through tiny gaps in the wooden walls. The longhouse smells like ash and sourdough, and the faint but unmistakable presence of goat. You blink awake to find that at some point in the night, the goat has placed one of its hooves gently on your boot, as if claiming it, or perhaps protecting it. Either way, you leave it alone. No one wants to start their day with a hoof-based standoff. Around you, the village is in its early stirrings again. Soft yawns, rustling blankets, someone mumbling something about a dream where the sea owed them money. You stretch slowly, carefully. Your back sounds like a gravel path under a slow cart. The fire has burned down to quiet coals. Someone's already feeding it kindling. Likely Ragna, given the efficient movements and subtle aura of mild disapproval toward everyone still horizontal. You rise, wrap your cloak, and step outside. The world is washed in pale gold and pearl. The sky is clear for once, and the ocean reflects it like a mirror with an excellent memory. A few gulls float lazily above, cawing not out of necessity, but just to hear their own opinions. Today is market day, which, in this village, means someone has walked 2 hours from another cluster of huts and brought with them a bundle of dried mushrooms, 3 woven belts, a carved spoon shaped like a bear, and a goat that is either for sale or simply refusing to go home. You wander to the market square, a cleared patch of earth where a few tables, crates, and blankets serve as displays. There's a low, cheerful buzz of exchange. Someone's trying to trade a jar of pickled radish for a pair of warm socks. Someone else is aggressively praising the virtues of birch bark as a facial tonic. You stop at a stall where a quiet woman is selling tiny clay pots, each painted with swirls and dots. She tells you they're for holding secrets. You buy one. You don't even haggle. It just feels like something worth having. At another stand, Schoolie is attempting to sell drawings he's made of local animals. You recognize most of them. The seal is portrayed with a monocle and a briefcase. The goat, alarmingly, has fangs. You buy that one too, out of respect or fear. You trade a small pouch of dried berries for a comb carved from driftwood. You're told it improves memory, though you're fairly certain it just pulls your hair a bit too hard. Still, it's beautiful. You tuck it into your belt. Lunch is a communal affair, as always. People gather in the square, bowls are passed out, and a large pot of stew is ladled until it complains. Today's version includes barley, root vegetables, and a meat no one wants to identify, but everyone agrees tastes brave. You eat beside Yun, who's trying to whittle a puffin from a single stick. It's not going well. It currently looks like a turnip having an identity crisis. Still, you nod appreciatively. Majestic, you say. He beams. Bjorg sits down next to you with a sigh. Do you know what today is? She asks. You prepare yourself. It's the halfway mark, she says. Halfway through the fishing calendar. You ask what that means. She shrugs. Nothing, really, but it feels important. Someone rings the small iron bell near the fish racks. Once, then again. It's not a warning, just a reminder. Time is passing. The sea is watching. The fish remain unimpressed. Later that afternoon, the weather shifts again. Clouds roll in like they own the place, trailing wisps of wind that whip cloaks and whisper nonsense into ears. The market wraps up. Items are tucked away, and someone chases the goat out of someone else's basket for the third time. You volunteer to help tie down the drying poles. Precaution, not panic. You work beside Ragna and two other villagers, pulling ropes tight, checking knots, occasionally slapping the wood with the flat of your hand to test its vibe. Kari stops by and announces that the breeze smells like an omen. You ask which one. He says, whichever one's the most forgetful. You accept this. You have no choice. Evening returns like it always does. Soft and blue at the edges, the fires are lit again. Tea is brewed with whatever herbs survived the week. The children gather for stories, though most fall asleep before the second sentence. The adults, frankly, aren't far behind. Someone recites a poem carved into a piece of whalebone. It's about a fisherman who tried to kiss the moon and ended up married to the tide. You don't know what it means, but it's lovely. You sit quietly, turning your little clay pot in your hands. It's warm from your fingers. You haven't put a secret in it yet, but you're thinking about one. As night deepens, the longhouse glows like a lantern itself. Soft light spilling through the slats, the occasional laugh drifting into the dark. You curl beneath your blanket. The goat settles beside you once again. Someone coughs softly. Someone else murmurs, "Don't let the fish steal your dreams." You promise you won't. And you sleep, once more. No urgency, no expectation. Just you, the fire, the sea, and a village that runs on wool, weather, and whimsy. You wake to the sound of a spoon stirring slowly in a wooden bowl. Not hurried, not clanging. Just that patient, looping sound like the village is gently waking its thoughts. Someone's humming again, probably Bjorg. though this time it's a tune in a minor key, one that makes you feel like you forgot something important 3 winters ago. You listen anyway. It's strangely comforting. The goat is already gone. Typical. He comes and goes like a lighthouse keeper with no schedule and even less accountability. You stretch, feeling the satisfying pop of joints returning to service. The fire's still smoldering, and someone has placed a warm flatbread by your boots. You eat it gratefully. It tastes like ash, grain, and a hint of someone else's memory. Delicious. Outside, the fog has pulled back to reveal a crisp, clear morning. The kind the village treats as a surprise party. There's a hush in the air. The sea is calm, smooth as poured ink. Even the gulls are polite today, circling without the usual yelling. You step out into it slowly. Today is for maintenance, not the dramatic kind. No roofs falling in or boats demanding full rebuilds. Just the small tasks that hold the village together. You're assigned to the storage shed. The shed smells like every kind of root vegetable ever harvested. Inside are crates of potatoes, barrels of fish, a suspiciously fuzzy turnip, and one sock that seems to have a personal vendetta against organization. You help rearrange the jars. Dried herbs, pickled this and that. Several containers marked simply, "Don't." You don't open those. With each object you touch, you're reminded this place has its own rhythm. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like a long breath held between seasons. Out in the square, someone's repairing a bench using fish glue and a prayer. Schoolie is organizing pebbles by size, claiming it's for important research. You suspect he just likes stacking things. You help anyway. By midday, the smell of soup begins to creep between the houses again. This time, it's root-heavy with a hint of mystery meat. Possibly rabbit. Possibly ambition. You eat with the others in companionable silence, only broken by a heated debate over whether moss can, in fact, be a main course. Afternoon brings a task you didn't expect. Wind chime adjustment. Apparently the chimes, made of bones, shells, and bits of driftwood, need realignment before the seasonal breezes return. You're handed a stool, a length of cord, and the advice, if it sounds like doom, just turn it clockwise. You climb, adjust, and listen. The sound shifts from foreboding to mildly mysterious. You're congratulated. Someone offers you a strip of dried pear. It tastes like a crumpled apology, but you appreciate the gesture. Later, you sit on the edge of the village, where the earth meets the sea, watching the tide slosh gently against the rocks. The air smells like salt and old stone. A few villagers are collecting seaweed, chatting softly as they fill their baskets. A girl beside you hums a tune with no words. She tells you she learned it from the wind. You believe her. You spot the goat again, standing on the roof of the sauna, looking triumphant. You decide not to intervene. He knows what he's doing. Probably. The sky begins to turn peach and lilac, that slow, soft swirl that always means the day is getting tired. Someone rings a bell, not urgently, just to remind the soup to stop simmering. The evening meal is quieter than usual. People speak in murmurs, and the fire crackles like it's trying to participate in the conversation. You're handed a bowl of stew thicker than any you've had before. It sticks to the spoon. It sticks to your ribs. It probably sticks to your dreams. Afterwards, someone starts telling a story about the night the stars fell. You listen as the elder describes a strange night long ago, when streaks of fire lit the sky and fish leapt from the water as if applauding. No one slept that night, she says. The sky was too busy dancing. Did it happen again? Someone asks. She smiles. Only in dreams. The goat wanders in, settles beside the hearth, and yawns loudly. You follow suit. You lie back, blanket over your shoulders, the wooden walls creaking like a lullaby written by old trees. Above you, the beams hold a few carvings you hadn't noticed before. Small, simple symbols etched into the wood. A fish, a hand, a spiral. You trace them with your eyes, your breath slow, the fire warm at your toes. Someone whispers, "Good dreams to all." And someone replies, "Except the goat, he dreams too loud." The room chuckles softly, and then stillness. Another night arrives, wrapped in fog, anchored in firelight, and you, somewhere in between, drifting again. You drift awake the next morning, not because of noise, but because of the absence of it. The fire is out. The room is quiet. So quiet that even the goats have decided to let you sleep a little longer. The longhouse is still dim, bathed in that soft morning gray, where every shadow looks like it might be someone who got up before you and didn't want to brag. You sit up slowly. The blanket slides off your shoulders like it, too, is reluctant to start the day. There's a cool draft tracing the floorboards, carrying with it the scent of ash, wool, and something faintly sweet. Berries, maybe. Or burnt berries. Always a possibility. You stand, stretch, and tiptoe across the room, stepping over a sleeping dog, 2 bundles of firewood, and someone's carefully folded pants. Outside, the sky is overcast again. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of soft, persistent gray that makes everything feel like it's wearing mittens. Today's task, you're told, is wall watching. You raise an eyebrow. Apparently, after the snow melt, it's customary to check every outer wall in the village for signs of weakness, cracks, leaks, or suspicious moss. Not fix them yet, just observe. Judging quietly, as is tradition, you start with the north-facing walls, which have endured the brunt of the weather. Most are still solid, thick with overlapping turf and driftwood beams that look like they've been holding grudges for generations. You tap one politely. It does not reply. Schooley joins you, claiming he can hear the walls speak if he holds a spoon to them. He demonstrates. You don't hear anything, but he nods sagely and says, "They say the rain is lazy this year." You accept this, mostly because you have no evidence to the contrary. At one hut, you find a strange stain crawling up from the base. Dampness, Ragna declares. Or ambition, Kari adds. You both agree it's probably best to put a rock in front of it and pretend it's decorative. By mid-morning, the wall-watching party has devolved into a mild competition to find the most dramatic leak from last season. Someone uncovers a spot where a plank gave way and let in an entire fish during a storm. The fish lived in the pantry for 3 days and was eventually released with a name and a story. Someone painted its portrait. It hangs crookedly in the storage hut. After a short break, tea and emergency biscuits, which taste exactly like regret but somehow feel comforting. You return to your final wall, the west-facing side of the smokehouse. You stand before it, arms folded, nodding occasionally. A sheep appears beside you and joins in the nodding. You're not sure what it means, but you both feel satisfied. The afternoon shifts toward chillier winds. People huddle into cloaks and turn their attention indoors. You help move some crates of dried herbs into the longhouse, bundles of thyme, moss, a bit of pine, and one suspicious bag labeled possibly food. Jon is cataloging spices again. His system includes smell testing, shaking, and a vibe check. You suggest organizing alphabetically. He laughs as if you just proposed marrying a seagull. You drop it. Later, a small group gathers for story stitching, a kind of communal embroidery circle where each person adds a line of thread and a line of tale. You're handed a needle and a scrap of linen. You sew something that might be a tree or a goat. You say it's both. Your story contribution? There once was a puffin who believed it was a cloud. Silence, and then applause. It's added to the quilt of tales, stitched just beneath a patch showing two fish playing chess. Evening arrives quietly, like someone slipping a blanket over your shoulders. The wind sighs. Fires are lit again. The lanterns sway in the wind with little rattling coughs, like old men clearing their throats before saying nothing important. You help serve dinner, barley mash with roasted turnips, and a sauce made from something that may have once been berries, but has since become philosophical. It's surprisingly good. As bowls are emptied and mugs refilled, someone suggests soft games. Tonight's pick is Guess the Goat, which involves a blindfold, a handful of hay, and a great deal of accidental ear-tugging. You do not win. The goat does, again. After the games, Bjorg recites the saga of the woman who refused to be cold. It's mostly about layers, and hot stones, and a battle of wills with a particularly rude winter. Some say it's metaphor. Others say it's just a lesson in dressing properly. You listen anyway, eyes half closed, the fire casting shadows that dance across the beams overhead, like they're reenacting the tale in slow motion. The goat settles beside you, snorting once before curling into itself like a loaf of fur and entitlement. The last thing you hear before sleep is someone whispering, "Don't forget to dream the good dreams tonight." You don't intend to forget, because even the walls today had stories, and tomorrow there will be more. The wind wakes you this time, not with fury, just with intention. It snakes through the slats of the longhouse, nudging your blanket, rustling the dried herbs hung from the rafters, and whispering across your cheek like it's trying to share a secret it forgot halfway through telling. You blink awake. The goat is already gone. Again, like a shadow with hooves and a strict personal schedule. The room smells like early fire and last night's stew, now cooled into something jelly-like, but still potentially edible. Someone nearby is snoring gently, and another is already sitting upright, braiding their hair by firelight with the slow grace of someone who's been awake for years. You ease out from under your blanket, your feet meeting the floorboards like old acquaintances. You pull on your cloak, still warm from your own dreams, and step outside into a world that feels washed clean. The storm must have come late in the night. Just a short one, from the looks of it. The sky is pale now, streaked with white clouds that trail like pulled wool. Puddles dot the village paths, and someone set up a line of shoes outside the longhouse to dry, each turned carefully toward the rising sun like pilgrims. You're assigned to puddle patrol. No one really explains it, but it seems to involve poking shallow puddles with sticks, nudging water away from doorways, and declaring any puddle deeper than a goat's ankle worthy of attention. You accept your stick with solemnity. It's slightly curved, well-worn, and has someone's initials carved at the end, along with what appears to be a fish wearing boots. Jon joins you, carrying a similar stick and a bundle of old straw. He claims puddles are connected to moods. If you leave one alone too long, he says, it becomes dramatic. You prod a large puddle near the communal oven. It gurgles once. You nod. It understands. As the village dries itself, people begin hauling out soaked bundles, setting things on racks or stringing them over fences. Wet cloaks flap gently in the breeze, and someone ties a scarf to a post to see if the wind wants it. The wind takes it. Inside the longhouse, Ragna is cleaning out the grain bins. You offer to help. She hands you a small scoop and points to a barrel. "Check for drama," she says. You assume she means mice. You find none, though there is one hardened clump of barley shaped suspiciously like the goat. You leave it there, just in case it's considered sacred now. Later, you help mend the path down to the shore. Collection of flat stones, moss patches, and well-placed regrets. You fit new stones into the gaps, hands muddy, knees sore, and feel quietly triumphant when one settles with a satisfying thunk. Kari walks by and says, "That stone has potential." You thank him like it was a personal compliment. The tide is high again today, and the boats bob in their moorings with the sleepy grace of animals who trust their ropes. You walk the length of the beach slowly, collecting driftwood for kindling, sea glass for decoration, and a small, suspiciously perfect shell for absolutely no reason at all. You pass the goat. He's standing on a half-submerged rock, looking westward like he's awaiting a sign. Or a snack. Maybe both. He ignores you, which is how you know he respects you. At midday, you gather with the others for a meal of thick soup, hard bread, and something green and crunchy that sparks debate over whether it's edible or aspirational. You eat it anyway. It tastes like effort and minerals. Afterward, someone suggests a walk to the outer cairns. You've seen them from the hill, the rows of stones stacked neatly at the edge of the wind's patience. You hike with the others, the path winding between boulders and low grasses, flattened by centuries of weather and wandering sheep. Each cairn has a story. One marks the place where a traveler was last seen before deciding the mountains were more interesting. Another honors a storm that came and went with such drama that the villagers still refer to it as the Loud One. A third cairn is simply marked with a carved spiral and the word, "Wait." You add a stone to that one. No one asks why. No one needs to. As you return, the wind picks up again, tugging at cloaks and turning loose strands of hair into tiny flags. Someone calls out that the bathhouse is hot today, rare and worth celebrating. A small queue forms by the door, and a child declares it's the steamiest Wednesday of the year. You take your turn later, wrapped in a linen cloth, sitting on the edge of the steam pool while a woman tosses herbs into the water and hums lullabies that rise with the mist. Your skin glows, your muscles sigh, even your thoughts feel wrung out and set to dry. That evening, the village gathers again, not for an event, just to be near each other. That's the kind of place this is. You sit beside the hearth with a cup of tea that tastes like mint, lemon, and deep personal growth. Jon is reading aloud from a scroll titled "The Best Fish I Never Caught." It's mostly dramatic pauses, vivid hand gestures, and one recurring motif involving a fish that winked. The goat sneezes at a particularly suspicious part. No one disagrees. You close your eyes near the fire, the warmth flickering on your cheeks, your hands resting on your lap like old folded maps. Someone has placed your shell on the table. It glints in the firelight, small and certain. You feel it then, not just sleep coming on, but that slow drift into belonging. You belong here, to the stories, to the soup, to the puddles that need polite conversation. You sleep once more. No hurry, no end. Just stillness, wrapped in wind and wool. The morning is pink, not just the sky, though that's part of it. The clouds blushing along the edges, like they're trying to remember what warmth feels like. But it's also the way the light hits the village, the mist hanging like a soft veil, the damp rooftops gleaming gently, the goat chewing something he absolutely should not. Haloed in sunrise like some ancient weather god with boundary issues. You step outside and breathe in that familiar scent. Sea, smoke, stone, and something else today. Berries? No. Jam. Someone's making jam. You follow your nose to the longhouse, where Brynja is standing over a pot of bubbling fruit that looks like it could stain dreams. She's stirring with a long wooden spoon carved to resemble a narwhal tusk. "Don't lean too close," she says, not turning. "This batch bites back." You nod respectfully and retreat to a safer distance. Outside, the village is already humming. Not with activity exactly, more like preparation. There's a mood in the air, a hush that says something is coming, though no one agrees on what. Ragna thinks it might be an early shipment of candles. Kari is sure it's a comet. Jon swears it's a second goat uprising. You're handed a broom and directed to sweep the path between the longhouse and the bathhouse. The ground is damp, but the moss is thick enough to bounce slightly underfoot. As you sweep, a chicken watches you intently. You nod. It does not nod back. Further along, you notice that someone's tied small tokens to the fence posts. Bits of ribbon, knotted thread, tiny shells. You ask Bjorg about them. She shrugs. Little wishes, she says. Mostly about weather, or romance, or softer socks. You think about making one. But what would you wish for? You're not sure you'd change anything right now. Not the fog, not the stew, not even the goat. Well, maybe a little more personal space from the goat. You continue sweeping, the bristles of your broom whispering across the stone like a lullaby for the earth. A small wind picks up. It moves your hair just enough to feel noticed. Lunch is simpler today. Just barley cakes, smoked fish, and thin slices of pickled root that bite back a little. You sit on the stone near the goat. A risky move, but he seems mellow today. And eat slowly while watching the clouds rearrange themselves like gossiping neighbors. Afterward, you help carry wood to the sauna, each log still holding the scent of the forest it once belonged to. Inside, the stones are heating, already crackling in that delicious way that sounds like they're whispering secrets to each other. The steam today is strong. Someone's added mint, or maybe thyme, or possibly just something brave from the back of a shelf. You sit inside a while, letting it soak into your bones. Your ears ring with silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. When you step back into the open air, the world feels softer, like it's been dusted with powdered sugar. Someone's playing a stringed instrument nearby, the melody slow and spiraling, like a lullaby for no one in particular. Children are painting rocks again, this time with faces. You see one that looks uncannily like Ragna. You don't comment. You like your knees unbruised. Jon is attempting to build a sundial using driftwood and misplaced confidence. You ask how it works. He replies, it doesn't. And yet he keeps building. There's something noble in that. Evening comes with no fanfare, just a long sigh across the village as people gather by the central hearth again. You carry a bundle of kindling, stack it near the fire, and watch as someone lights the first spark with a flint and a steady hand. Tonight's meal is a stew so thick it might qualify as building material. It clings to your spoon like a good memory. You eat in contentment, the warmth settling into your chest like a cat finding a blanket. Bjorg tells the story of the village that slept too long. It's not a warning tale, more of a gentle comedy. A village that overslept by 3 days and missed the king's messenger. When he finally arrived, they offered him porridge and forgot to ask why he came. No one minded, least of all the king. You wonder, just a little, if this village might be that village. The goat lies at your feet now, one eye open, watching the fire like he wrote it. Someone starts humming again, the same wordless tune as always. It winds around the smoke, curls beneath your thoughts, and makes everything feel a little further away, in the best possible way. You lie back, staring up at the ceiling where someone has carved a fish with wings. You don't remember seeing it before, but it feels like it's always been there. Someone whispers, the stars are shy tonight. You don't need them anyway. You have the fire, the steam, the goat, and a sky that pinked itself just for you this morning. You wake to laughter, not loud, not jarring, just the kind that bubbles up from a warm conversation and spills gently into the day. The kind of sound that makes bread rise better, some say. Outside, the wind has stilled. The clouds have softened. The entire village seems wrapped in a hush, not of silence, but of satisfaction, as if the weather has finally remembered its manners. You step into your boots, which are for once not damp, suspicious, but welcome. Your cloak is still where you left it, though the goat has definitely stood on it. You brush off the hoofprint and take it as a signature. Breakfast is already underway. There's barley porridge on the fire, stirred slowly by Kari, who insists that clockwise stirs bring calm weather. No one questions this. You eat quietly, the porridge thick and slightly smoky, with a drizzle of honey that tastes like summer forgot to pack up and leave. After breakfast, you're asked to help with sky cleaning. You raise an eyebrow. It's not literal, of course. It's the process of polishing the inside of the windows and skylights, those rare open spaces that let in light when the weather allows it. And today, the weather allows it. You climb a small ladder and find yourself eye level with the sky, blue, streaked with light, feathered with clouds so delicate they seem embroidered. As you wipe the glass, your reflection winks back at you, tired, a little soot-smudged, but undeniably content. Behind you, the longhouse hums with motion, someone mending a tunic, someone else grinding herbs with a stone, and a distant voice reciting a recipe like it's an incantation. Outside, the goat is attempting to climb onto the roof again. A child is following him with a stick, pretending it's a sword. This is normal. Later, you're sent to the far end of the village to check on the fence line, the low rock boundary that separates here from out there. It doesn't keep much out, but it marks something. A line drawn gently between belonging and elsewhere. You walk the length of it slowly, placing loose stones back where they've tumbled, brushing moss from the top so the wind doesn't forget it's a wall. You hum as you go, a song with no name, just rhythm, just pace. At one point, you find a tiny stack of pebbles left on a flat stone. Beside it, a piece of bone with a rune carved deep into it. You don't touch it, but you nod to it. That feels enough. Back in the village, the noonday meal is being served in shifts. There's a turnip pie, surprisingly pleasant, and tea so strong it could probably convince a rock to dance. You sip slowly, watching the steam curl up and vanish like it never meant to stay. In the afternoon, there's wool to be sorted again. The piles are familiar now, soft, scratchy, confusing. You sort efficiently, confidently misidentifying at least 3 tufts. Ragna catches you. She says nothing, just quietly moves the mystery wool to a 4th pile she's clearly made just for you. You thank her. She pretends not to hear. You take a walk up the path to the hill again, that same lookout where the cairns mark time with patience. You sit on the same stone as before. The wind brushes your cheeks. You close your eyes. You think about how strange it is to be this still. Not bored, not restless, just still. Like a pebble in a warm pocket. Like a story told slowly, knowing there's no rush for the ending. You walk back down as evening rolls in. Tonight is lantern night, not for a holiday, not for a ceremony. Just because the moon won't be visible, and someone said it would be nice. So they hang the lanterns. Driftwood frames, stretched fish skin, little candles tucked inside. They glow like tiny ships in the sky. Children chase the light across the square, laughing and leaping, waving their arms like wings. One falls. No one panics. They sit, brush off the dirt, and are handed a berry by a nearby elder. This is the village's version of a first aid kit. Dinner is root mash with goat cheese, and a thin broth you suspect might just be water with confidence. Still, it warms your stomach and soothes your bones. As night deepens, people settle in close. A game of truth or fish breaks out, where one must either tell a secret or hold a dried fish for an awkwardly long amount of time. You hold the fish. It smells like history. Jon tells a tale about the time he tried to build a raft from cheese wheels. No one believes him. Everyone enjoys it anyway. The goat settles at your side once more, pressing close. For warmth, you think, or solidarity. The fire burns low. The stories wind down. The last mug of tea is passed around like a relic. And you? You lie back. Listen to the wind nudging the lanterns. Watch the shadows dance on the beams above. Feel the weight of the day melt from your shoulders. Somewhere in the dark, someone whispers, "We should do this again tomorrow." Someone else replies, "We will." And you smile. Because here, in this fishing village, that time forgot, but sleep remembers. Tomorrow always comes gently. The first sound of the morning is a thump, not an alarming thump, just the familiar, gentle kind that happens when a bucket falls over for no reason, possibly nudged by wind, possibly nudged by goat. You never find out. The bucket does not explain itself. You wake beneath your now traditional blanket, tucked into the same comfortable corner by the hearth, half bathed in the golden flicker of a new fire. Someone has already stirred the coals. Someone always does. You don't know who. You've never asked. Just happens. You sit up slowly, feeling the stiffness in your joints like a good story told over and over again. You stretch. Something in your spine pops in a language only Ragnar would understand. The goat is watching from the far corner. You wave. He looks away. Classic. Today is cleaning day. Not in the modern sense. No industrial vacuums or color-coded sponges. Just brooms, rags, and a deep philosophical conversation with dust. You're assigned to the pantry, a sacred place, a chaotic place. You enter with reverence. The pantry smells like salt, old wood, dry herbs, and at least one unresolved grudge. Shelves lean slightly, holding bees with handwritten labels like spruce bits, definitely edible, and emergency plums. You begin by wiping the shelves with a damp cloth, carefully avoiding the mysterious jar in the back, marked only with a question mark and the phrase, "Don't." Someone is reorganizing the baskets. Someone else is muttering about the location of the backup butter. You find it. It's under a sack of turnips, next to a note that simply says, "Well done." Outside, the wind has returned, brushing across the rooftops and tugging at laundry lines with playful insistence. The clothes flap like sleepy flags, and a scarf sails away into the sky, chased by two children and a very determined duck. Lunch arrives in the form of barley cakes and soft cheese spread with something jam-like and purple. It might be a berry. It might be an emotion. You eat it anyway, and it tastes like something your grandmother never made but should have. After lunch, the wind grows stronger, and people begin checking the roofs. You join a small crew on the ladder circuit, climbing, checking thatch, hammering pegs, adjusting tarps. You hand nails to Jon, who swears every roof has a personality. "This one," he says, "holds grudges." You nod. The last time someone slipped on it, it rained for 3 days. From the rooftop, the view is different. The sea seems closer, the village smaller. The goat, bigger? No, wait, he's just standing on a barrel again. You wave. He ignores you. All is normal. Clouds start to gather near sunset. Nothing ominous, just a slow stacking of soft gray pillows in the sky. Someone announces it's sky watching hour, not because the sky is expected to do anything, just because it's polite to check in. You lie on your back near the edge of the field, arms folded beneath your head, and stare upward. The clouds move slowly, like whales made of weather, drifting wherever the wind decides. You see shapes, a spoon, a fish, an accidental goat, Bjorg lies beside you, chewing on a piece of grass. "You ever wonder if the sky forgets us?" she asks. You think about it. "Maybe," you reply. "But I think the wind remembers." She smiles. That seems good enough. Dinner is early tonight. A stew made from lentils and something that crunches. You don't ask. It tastes fine. You dip your bread into it, scoop the soft parts, leave the mysteries at the bottom for those braver or less picky. After the meal, there's a vote to declare tomorrow official sock sorting day. The vote passes narrowly. A few villagers groan, a few cheer. One person claps in a rhythm that implies sarcasm. All is fair. Tonight's story is told by a man with a beard so long it's tied in two places. He tells of a fish that stole a ring, traveled up a river, and founded a village of moss people. The goat appears in the story halfway through and immediately demands taxes. You fall asleep during the ending, not because it's boring, but because your body has decided that dreaming about fish politics is a better use of time. As you drift, the fire glows beside you. The longhouse quiets. Someone snores softly in the corner. Someone else shifts and murmurs a word in their sleep. Warm. And that's what this place is. Warm, not just in heat, but in rhythm. In the way people hand you tea without asking. In the way the sky is watched not for answers, but out of respect. You sleep. Again. Still. Safe. You wake to sock talk. Not metaphorical socks. Literal ones. Piles of them. Damp ones. Woolen ones. Mismatched ones with small holes and enormous stories. It's official sock sorting day, and the entire longhouse smells faintly like sheep and commitment. Someone has laid out baskets. Someone else has assigned categories. Thick, thin, dry, damp, single, suspicious. You are handed a bundle and told, do your best, but be honest. You do your best. You are honest. You hold up a sock with 3 heels and make eye contact with Björg across the room. She nods once as if to say, that sock has been through something. Sorting socks becomes a kind of meditation. There's rhythm to it. Touch, fold, inspect, sigh. Occasionally, a pair reunites. There's quiet, applause. Occasionally, 2 socks look nothing alike, but someone shrugs and declares them emotionally compatible. That counts too. After an hour, you have sorted 5 baskets and learned 3 new terms for almost dry. The goat tries to eat 1 sock. He's gently escorted outside. He returns 10 minutes later with a mitten. No one questions it. You head out for fresh air. The sky is streaked with sunlight, rays poking through a lattice of lazy clouds. A good sky, a laundry sky. Several lines have been strung across the square. Sheets flap like sails. Cloaks wave like they're saying goodbye to last week's mistakes. You help Ragna hang a particularly large blanket. It's heavy, smells faintly of smoke and pine needles, and might be older than half the village. You don't ask. You just stretch it tight and pin the corners down with polished fish bones. Afterward, a small group gathers near the fish racks for something called story repairs. Apparently, a few of the painted wooden signs marking historical events around the village have faded, cracked, or been chewed on. You join the team, assigned to repaint the sign for the time the sea forgot to rise. It's a simple image. 2 boats stranded in mud, 1 goat looking smug. You repaint the waves, re-outline the goat, and add a single fish with a confused expression. For accuracy. Lunch is a celebration of sock progress. Thick slices of bread, sharp cheese, and a soup that may or may not have potatoes in it depending on who stirred last. You dip the bread slowly, thoughtfully. The cheese is assertive. The soup is humble. They get along. During the meal, Jon performs the Ballad of the Lost Slipper. It's dramatic, underwhelming, and features 3 verses about mud. The village laughs anyway. Or perhaps because of it. You volunteer for dish duty, mostly for the excuse to stand near hot water. The dishes are passed, scrubbed, rinsed with seawater, and dried with wool that might once have been a scarf. You whistle as you work. The sound echoes gently, blending with the clink of bowls and the crackle of the hearth. Afternoon brings a surprise delivery. A merchant has arrived, his cart rattling with dried herbs, carved spoons, buttons made of shell, and something he insists is a musical instrument, but looks suspiciously like a bent fork strapped to a gourd. The village gathers. Coins are few, but trades are plenty. One woman offers a painting of a duck in exchange for 3 buttons. Another swaps a jar of pickled moss for a length of blue ribbon. You trade a particularly charming pebble for a small hand mirror. It's slightly cracked and reflects you in an oddly flattering way. You keep it. As the sun dips low, you help bring the day's wash in from the lines. The blanket is dry. The socks are warm. The sky glows gold, like it's congratulating you. Dinner is simple again. Barley mash with bits of dried fruit stirred in. Sweet, hearty, the kind of meal that makes you want to nap halfway through. You resist. Barely. Tonight, the storytelling takes place outside, under the stars. Blankets are laid out. Lanterns swing overhead. The goat sits at the center like a guest of honor. Bjorg begins. She tells of the 3 nights without wind, when the sea held its breath and the boats just floated in silence. No storms, no movement, just stillness. Some say it was a blessing, she says. Others say it was a warning, but either way, it was ours. The fire cracks, the stars blink. You lie back, stare at the sky, and feel the earth breathe beneath you. Someone sings, soft and low, a lullaby made of weather and memory. The words don't matter. The feeling does. You close your eyes, your thoughts drift like the sails on those silent nights, held gently in place, waiting for whatever comes next. A sock brushes your shoulder. A gift. You keep it. Sleep finds you again, wrapped in stories and wool. You wake slowly, not from sound or movement, but from warmth. That deep, radiant kind that soaks through the blanket, slips between your ribs, and whispers. Not yet, but almost. The fire is still glowing. Someone's kept it alive through the night, another quiet gift in a village built on them. The goat is asleep near your feet, his breath slow and steady, as if he too has finally accepted that dreams can be trusted. Around you, people stir in gentle waves. No rush, no clamor, just the slow symphony of waking in a place that doesn't demand urgency. A bowl is set near the fire, a yawn is stifled, someone hums without realizing it. Today is farewell day, not an official holiday. No feast, no banner, just a quiet understanding that your visit is winding to a close, that this strange, soft chapter of your life is folding itself neatly and placing itself on the shelf between unexpected soup and stories told by mist light. You step outside. The village is bathed in morning gold. The clouds, shy today, hang back, letting the sky stretch itself fully open. The breeze is gentle, smelling of salt, pine smoke, and worn wool. You walk slowly, nodding to familiar places. The path where you talked to the whispering wall. The puddle that judged you, but forgave. The stone you sat on while watching the sea try to remember its name. Each step brings with it a memory. Small, soft, necessary. You help with a few morning tasks, just because. A final net rolled, a crate stacked, a goat redirected from the tea herbs. He looks back once as if to say, I'm watching you. You smile. You know. Bjorg hands you a small parcel wrapped in cloth. "Don't open it until you've left," she says. You ask what it is. She replies, "A little piece of staying." You nod. "That's enough." Jorn walks with you to the edge of the hill. He doesn't say much, just points out a cloud that looks like a slipper and a stone that once hosted a duel between two extremely bored sheep. You thank him. He shrugs. "Next time, I'll teach you the fish dance." You believe him. You fear it. Back at the square, a few villagers have gathered. No speeches, just quiet goodbyes. One hug, two nods, a firm handshake from Ragna that nearly knocks the wind from you. She smirks. "Come back stronger." You turn to go. But before you leave, someone presses a tiny scroll into your hand. No name, no signature. You peek. You were here. You mattered. The wind remembers. You walk the path out of the village with slow steps. Behind you, the longhouse breathes its steady breath. The smoke rises. The goat bleats once. Just once. At the crest of the hill, you stop. You turn, and for one last moment, you take it all in. The nets and smoke and stories. The pebble piles and spoon songs. The fire-lit nights and fog-shaped mornings. The people who welcomed you, not with fanfare, but with chores, tea, and space. You were a guest, but now you carry it with you. And tonight, when you close your eyes, no matter where you are, a part of you will still be wrapped in wool and wind. You'll still hear the sea breathing against the rocks. You'll still taste the honey from a shared spoon. And somewhere, under a sky lit only by memory, the goat will still be judging you. And somehow that will mean everything is okay. Now let it all drift. Let the tide come in, soft and slow. Let the lantern sway in the hush. Let your breath grow long and steady. Let your thoughts soften like moss underfoot. And sleep. Just sleep. You are home.